Asgard's Wrath is going to feature a 30-hour campaign. What's up, gamers? Time to shit on the only good thing that happened to the Rift S since its launch. I'm doing the mic prop thing, it actually works pretty well. Now, this is going to be a critical review, but keep in mind this is one of the most hyped game releases I've been for a long time. I really wanted this game to be this epic experience that people need to go buy a VR headset for, and that's what it was aiming for, so I don't think it's being too harsh to hold it against these standards. I played this game for over 30 hours, and here's how I spent 10 of those hours. The game is incredibly beautiful. Each new scenery blows you away, but the time it takes to load all those textures is horrendous. I've never thought I would complain about a game's loading time, as it seems like something pretty arbitrary. I would just browse Reddit through my phones, but in a VR game, oh. Also, when you die, it reloads the entire level, so while it doesn't take any resources from you when you die, the loading time is pretty much the punishment for death. Maybe the resource it takes away from you may be the most important resource of all. Your time. Like I said, when you boot up the game, you will be instantly floored by the visuals. The sceneries are majestic and character models are the best I've seen in VR. Oh, fuck real life, am I right? It first drops you in as a spectator in this fight between a Kraken and a captain, but then just when you get comfortable, it launches a sword at you and you can catch it, making you realize that you're not just a spectator, and the battle begins. How brilliant is that? Imagine if a professional sports league did that, it would make things much more interesting. And next on the bet is Katie. Yeah, I wrote this, hi. You probably already know the whole premise of the game. You're a god that can possess characters, so you can walk around levels as human or see the whole thing as a god. It's a great mechanic, and I wish they did more out of it, as the only things you really do as a god is solve a couple puzzles and isolated boss fights. Most of the time, I feel like I'm a puny human that, despite the fact that there's a god literally right there, I'm left alone with this meaningless quest that could be completed with the snap of his fingers. The majority of the game is naturally in human form, and things function pretty much as you would expect. Grab things, cut heads. Interactions are overall intuitive. When you grab things, you can squeeze them with your trigger, like when you close your whole hand. It's intuitive, and it makes sense. And it's entertaining to crush tiny animals like Lenny crushes baby puppies. That's a reference to English literature, to make you feel educated. Even though you're not, you just read it in high school. Stop lying to yourself. This game makes pretty bold claims about its content, but it does have some quality to back it up, just maybe not 30 hours of it. When you strip down the fact that this game is in VR, the actual gameplay structure is pretty much a generic RPG where you progress through linear levels that disguise themselves as open worlds because they are blocked off paths that require special abilities that you unlock later in the game. Now, does making this game in VR an excuse for its structure reminiscent of the Xbox 360? Sure looks like it. The overall physics aren't fantastic either. Item interactions don't always feel natural, but it shows that a lot of work has been put into trying to compensate this. For example, when you grab a bottle of beer, you can't grip it from anywhere, and when you drop it... But when you hit it on the counter... What I'm getting at is that a lot of work has been put into seemingly useless things to make the game feel more natural. So while we aren't getting an engine like Breath of the Wild or Blade and Sorcery, we have to acknowledge the devs' hard work. Let's get into the meat of things, and the main selling point, the combat. If I had never played Blade and Sorcery and only games like Skyrim, I would be blown away. It feels floaty, but the parry mechanics are super solid. Clearly, the devs knew they had something good with those parries, because most of the combat is designed around it. They're realistic, yeah, but I think it works to its advantage. The enemies swing fast, and when you react, it feels like a real lightsaber fight from the prequels, without the flips. Sure, it doesn't look like other games, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, if every major release had the same physics engine, combat would be the same, and we'd already be pros at it. How boring would it be if every major release had the same gameplay that we're already good at? But, here's the thing, it's fucking boring. It's always the same. You don't get to be creative because the game doesn't want you to be. The guys push you back every time you get too close. The attack patterns are the same for 30 hours except for like 6 bosses. It's always the same goddamn guy. I feel like I'm back in 2014 playing fucking Skylanders. It's the same enemy a million times and we get only 2 attacks to choose from. And once in a while you hit a roadblock and you go, well, guess we're coming back here later for some more stimulating gameplay. You money-wasting filth.
The only thing reassembling a new combat mechanic are the new weapons, but the physics are so boring that they function exactly the same as the others. And the only new mechanic introduced is this boss's freeze, and it's not even damaging if you've already given up all dignity and flail around to thaw yourself. Every time a new weapon or mechanic or follow is introduced, I go,
oh, that's cool. Maybe this will make things more interesting.
Then I realize it functions exactly the same as the others, and I become bored of it in the next 2 hours until the next new thing. The point is, the game adds nothing new along the way. It makes that 30 hour feel like an absolute chore. When the pace does pick up, which it doesn't always, but we'll get to that later, the game takes you from epic set piece to epic set piece, and it is mind-blowing. In the first level, you fight this epic two-headed fire beast, then go through this devastated village while things are happening literally everywhere around you and you loot every barrel and hear families screaming, being burnt alive. Then you fight with a magic bow this angry god on top of the village and punch him to death. It's one of the most insane experiences VR has to offer.
Overall, that action scene was so epic, my dick grew half an inch. Yeah, but like on the side, in a sphere. What do you mean, cancer?
But here's the problem. You can really only enjoy things like this the second time around. You know how in VR, when you launch a new game, you expect things to be interactable in a certain way, but it's never exactly how you imagine it, so you need to get used to how it works. It's like when you're starting a new class and you expect the teacher to give it in a certain way, but it's completely different, so by the time you get used to it, you're already flunking and you need to resort to Indian physics teachers. So every 2 minutes, this game literally throws you into a new system where things feel different, and you better get used to it fast because the pain train is coming. For example, in this action sequence is the first time you get to use a bow, and every game has its own bow mechanics. In this one, for some unfathomable reason, when you're holding the bow in one hand and you grip the string a little too near your other hand, it changes your bow to your other hand. So the first time you're using it, you need to get used to this feature pretty fucking fast, as the combat doesn't wait for you.
Only after you die once do you really get how you're supposed to interact with this game. This kills the otherwise pretty fast pacing of the game and doesn't let it live up to its huge potential.
Although this does get much better as you progress and get used to the game. In the first 10 hours, it really hurts the experience overall. The Elder Scroll-like puzzle fits the level well and they bring a nice variety. Sometimes when you're too slow, the game gives you hints of what to do, but it isn't too revealing so it doesn't come off as it was made for children. Sometimes though, when you get stuck and you miss a small thing, the game doesn't tell you because it assumes you're not a fucking lobotomite. The thing is, I have a medical condition called being fucking retarded, and this happens to me a lot. I spent 20 minutes here before realizing there was a pressure plate right there.
So while this game boasts its 30 hours of content, it spreads what it has very thinly. But maybe a long and formulaic campaign has its audience. I mean, JRPG fans do exist. It's just not for me. I would rather take a polished 6-hour game than a game that feels like a chore to play. Hey, thanks for watching till the end. I want to make more content like this in the future, so feel free to comment what you think I could improve. See you in the next one, hopefully.